Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. Another little CGC unboxing here on the channel. This one's a little bit of a mini one. Only 2 books to talk about in this video here today because it's not so much about the unboxing, but more about the process in which I did for today's books, which is Crack, Press, and Resubmit, otherwise known as CPR in the comic book hobby. And so in this video, I'm going to do this unboxing here today. You have to excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse, feeling a little under the weather, but that's not going to stop us from making comic book content here. I'm going to do this unboxing and then we'll talk about CPRing and if it's something that you should do for your own books. But of course, before we get into it, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Help support the channel, doing those things. Let's get into this video here today. Now, again, already did a little bit of a pre-unboxing here. Only 2 books to talk about. 2 books I've had in my collection for a few years now, and I just never got around to cracking and pressing them. They were always books that I knew had potential to bump. You know, when you get them, you could see in the case, it was like clearly this book had never been pressed or cleaned. In this one particular example, I had an Avengers #4, First Captain America in the Silver Age, and this book had a very, very significant spine roll on it. Now, if you guys don't know, pressing and cleaning spine roll is actually something that pressing can improve upon. And I knew that if I got that spine roll out of the book on top of all the, generic sort of pressable things that were on it, this book would definitely have a chance to bump. Well, I'll probably put a picture up of my Avengers #3 that I had in a 3.0 before. Got it press and clean, and it came back a 4.0. Avengers #4 in a 4.0. Cream to off-white pages. Definitely a big improvement on the visual aesthetics of this book, like the presentation of this book. Like just, as I look at it in the case, looks a lot better than what I had it at before. And very happy that I did it. Here you see the back right there. So, looks not too bad, right? For a 4.0, not too bad. A little stain up there in the corner, some color breaking down here and down here. But, presentation wise, I mean, for a 4.0, it's like nothing too distracting overall. So a very nice looking copy. Now it's interesting with the results that I'm getting here because even though it has gone up by a full point in grade based on when I bought this, which was 2 years ago, I'm still a little bit in the red with this one overall, even at that grade bump. But generally speaking, I think it is still a valuable tool to use for your books if you do want to not only improve upon them, if it's just something that visually, aesthetically, you would rather have like a nicer looking book inside of a case that has a bigger number on it. But also, obviously, if you one day decide to sell it, you one day decide to trade it, it's going to be important for you to get the highest grades you can for that book so that you can get the most value out of it, which is why pressing and cleaning, even if it is a nominal percent that you're going to improve the book, is still probably worth doing. But we're going to get into those weeds a little later on in the video. All right, next book I have here, just the other one I have for this unboxing is my X-Men #4, first appearance of Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Toad, and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I had this book at a 3.5 before. When I bought it, I knew that it had never been pressed or cleaned. It just clearly had a bunch of pressable defects on it, had a bunch of, little spine rolls, some waviness, things like that. And I was like, oh, this could definitely be much improved. Cracked it, cleaned it, pressed it, came back 4.5 grade. So definitely a nice result for this one. Another book that bumped a full grade, which is great. Still has a little bit of a stain down here, still a little bit of spine wear. You can't really do anything about that. Still a color break back there, but generally speaking, just the overall aesthetics of the book inside the case, just looks a lot better. And even though, again, it's a book that I'm still in the red with because I bought it in 2021, 2022, something like that, at least bumping it a full grade returns some of that equity back to me that I lost when I initially bought it and the market has totally corrected and all that sort of thing. But those are the 2 results for those books. Great to have them bumped by a full grade. But I want to spend a little time in this video to talk to you guys about if CPR is something that you should do, that you should consider. And really, again, it's going to have to be a book-by-book basis, So let me show you guys some examples. Avengers #4, First Captain America Silver Age. It really depends on the value tiers and, the breakpoints and the checkpoints that you're going to be hitting. I mean, if you look right here between a 4.0 to a 5.0, well, let's say you had a 4.5 book and the 30-day moving for it is $1,000. And if you're able to bump it by 0.5, you can go up to a 5.0, and all of a sudden that value is $1,500. So in that particular instance, to be able to bump this book by $500 would definitely be worth it, considering if we're talking about, okay, well, how much does setting a book in for grading cost? Maybe it's 37, maybe it's 85, depending on what tier you submitted under. How much is a press and clean? That's about $25. So let's say you're in the hole for $100. So in this particular instance, pressing a book and going from 4.5 to 5.0 would absolutely be worth it, because you would be in the green by $400. But if you have a 4.0 that sells for $937 and you can only bump it up to a 4.5, that goes to now $1063. Well, you really only improved the book by about $100. And what did it cost for you to actually do that? You know, the labor itself, the sweat equity kind of took, you know, a lot of your time. Essentially, it did cost you $100. So would it have really been worth it for you to crack and press this book in order for you to get $100 extra out of, you know, the book? Probably wasn't worth the effort that you put into it. I mean, again, to each their own. Again, it's also one of those things where if it's something that you just want to keep, I mean, frankly, you really don't need to CPR it, because if you're not looking to sell it, the value of it probably doesn't matter so much. But you can start to see, you know, where the big jumps can occur, can make a huge difference. Like, obviously, both of my books went up a full point in grade. Well, look at this right here. Let's say I had a 7.0 and the 30-day moving is 2,600, and I was able to bump this 7.0 to a full point in grade up to an 8.0. Well, all of a sudden my book is 5,400. So we just doubled the value of the book by cracking and pressing it and resubmitting it and getting a 1 point higher grade. So this is really, you know, one of the most effective strategies for how people profit within comic book collecting. I mean, I think the number one way that people make the most amount of money is by finding a comic book collection, being able to make an offer and buy it for pennies on the dollar, and then by selling it back into the market. And that's really how most people make their money. But I think that CPR is the second most viable option for a lot of people to make a lot of money in comic books, and that is when they have those big wins, when they crack a book that was a 7.0 that they're able to bump to an 8.0. I mean, I've definitely heard stories of people, you know, that have really, really nice high grade Silver Age books, and they can bump them from, you know, a 9.2 to a 9.4, or a 9.4 to a 9.6, or a 9.6 to a 9.8. And we're talking at that point, at those types of books, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference in those grades. And I think that that is something that a lot of people do, a lot of people go for. It's certainly not for everyone, and it's a little bit of a gamble. I mean, you're much better served you know, pursuing this route if comics is your full-time thing, if you're a dealer who's constantly sending to CGC and you're doing your own pressing and you have the wherewithal to be able to crack and press your own books and continually submit it. And, you know, you might whiff on 5, but you might hit on 1, and that 1 can cover the cost of all the other ones. It's not something I necessarily think a casual comic collector can consistently do to make a lot of money. But if you're doing high volume of a lot of books and you're constantly sending to CGC, it is something that, you know, a lot of people do and a lot of people win big with. Now, the last little thing I want to point out before we wrap up this video is talking just a little bit about how pressing and cleaning is something you probably should do, even if you don't think it's going to improve the grade of the book, because just the perception, just the aesthetics of having a nicely cleaned and pressed book can actually influence the grader himself when he goes to grade the book. I mean, case in point right here, I want to show you the old grader's notes of my Avengers 4 versus the new grader's notes. So the grader's notes here were moderate bends to cover, moderate creasing to cover, moderate spine stress lines to cover, water stain, right top of back cover, water stain, right top of interior. So this is the old grader notes right here. A lot of moderate creasing here, and also an emphasis on the water stain. Well, with the new grader's notes, I got something different. You know, he said almost detached centerfold, multiple crease to cover breaks color, spine roll, and staining to cover. Even though it's probably likely that I got a different grader this time around for this book, I think having a book freshly cleaned and pressed, you know, made this particular grader focus on different details. Like, you know, he does still mention the staining to cover, but he, you know, is less inclined to talk about, you know, a water stain specifically. You know, maybe when the book was, you know, not cleaned and not pressed, the water stain perceivably looked a lot worse in comparison to the rest of the book. Whereas now it's like he still sees it. He's still like, yeah, there's a little stain to cover, but honestly, it's not that bad and not something that I need to put a lot of emphasis on. And that perception, you know, helped him give the book a better grade. Now, granted, this actually was a better grade, but I still think that outside of CPR, if you're somebody who is sending your books into CGC, even if you don't think it's going to improve the grade, it is probably still worth it to press and clean the book just for the aesthetic purposes. And hey, you never know, you might get a bump. Well, there you have it, guys. Me doing my unboxing full bumps for both of these books, even though I'm still technically in the red with them. It is always good to press and clean. It is the best way to add value to a lot of your books. And it's one of those things where, as the adage goes, buy the book, not the grade. And the reason you buy the book is so that you can crack it and press it and resubmit it and then get the grade. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. That was me doing my little unboxing there. What do you guys think about CPR in general? Do you guys think that it is worth it? Obviously, it's a case-by-case scenario. Sometimes it's probably not worth it if it's just something that's going to stay in your collection or it doesn't actually improve the fair market value of the book because it's a sunken cost to do all the grading fees and all the pressing and cleaning. But on the flip side, there is a lot of opportunity for you to hit big and improve the book's value by 2x, 3x, maybe 4x, depending on the book and depending on the grade that you get. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm almost at 20K subscribers, so help me get there. Anyways, see you all in the next video.